Je peux y aller. Ladies and gentlemen, being the doyen of our team, it is my privilege to welcome you here to the 6th edition of GemGenève, to say thank you to all of you to being with us and to support us. And now I will introduce you to the next speaker, which is my daughter, Ida Ferber.
So my name is Ida Farber, and I will be your mistress of ceremony today. We will do our best to respect the timing of the conference that will end at 12:15. In order to ensure the fluidity of this event, please ask your question at the end. The question and answer session will take place during the cocktail, where you can exchange in one-on-one until 1:45. We highly recommend you a visit of the fair after the lunch, and we hope that this edition will enchant you. I will now introduce you to different speakers, which I am sure you already know. Thomas Farber, my father, and Ronnie Tota, the two co-founders of the show, who will speak about this 6th edition, May 2023. Estelle Fallet, Chief Curator of the Geneva Art and History Museum, will introduce the collaborative exhibition Automatons and Music. Will then follow François Junot, sculptor and automaton maker. Vivian Becker, journalist and art historian, will present her designer vivarium. Nadège Tota, board member of GemGenève, will present the emerging talents and the new designers. Mathieu de Coquelaire, director of GemGenève, will give you a brief overview of the cultural program and the conference you can attend here. Finally, we have the pleasure to welcome Justin Prim, gem cutter and lapidary historian. He will be accompanied by his wife, Victoria Reynaud, who is also a gem cutter. They will present the métier d'art in the Villa of Lost Arts, together with other artistic professions that are becoming very rare today. I wish you a nice conference, and above all, a wonderful discovery of the show. And I will now let Ronnie Tota take the lead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if we speak in English or in French. Is it okay, English for everybody? Okay, great. So I don't know what to say after 5 editions past, but I still want to tell you that for us, it's always a big happiness. I would not say big pleasure, because big pleasure is quite banal, you know, but it's really a happiness for us to do the show. Why? Because it's a show that represents us. And even 2 days before the show, we were roaming around and saying, oh, we can still change this, we can do that, etc. And this is really very rewarding for us. Then there is a part of the show where we can say that we are proud of it. We're not proud to be considered as a great commercial show or trade show. We are proud of what has been developed with this commercial side, so which is the cultural side and a platform where every actor of the trade could transmit their passion. And in fact, this is the real part that we love. The commercial one, okay, we're doing it with our experience of exhibitor ourselves, So it's really a technical thing. All the rest is the heart that we are putting in this show. And I hope that you're going to feel it. I know that already a lot of people realize this. To speak about the commercial side, I think that since a year, GemGenève is really written on the calendar of the exhibitions. So there is no more question for an exhibitor to say, should I go or not? And so this is the commercial side. And all the rest you're going to hear by all the different speakers, and you would understand that GemGenève is entering in the, I don't know how you say, cultural, in French is tissue, okay, tissue of Genève. And this is what I want to say. The figures, I think, of the number of exhibitors, etc., this you would have it in the press communique. I can tell you that even myself, I don't know exactly how much we are. I know that we are a lot. That's it. So, and then I would pass the to Mathieu, and then you introduce. Okay.
You remember that last November? Sorry. You remember that last November we organized an exhibition about Fabergé and another one about micro-mosaics. For this new edition, we are very happy to present an exhibition about the mechanics of art that we called Automatons and Music. This exhibition is curated and had been prepared in collaboration with Estelle Fallet, Chief Curator of the Art and History Museum of Geneva, with the help of the Musée International de l'Horlogerie, with François Junot, sculptor, automaton maker, and some exhibitors. So I will leave the floor to Estelle for a quick introduction, I think in French, or whatever, of the project and of our collaboration, and then to François to introduce his art.
Merci. Je suis très heureuse de nous présenter devant vous, moi-même et évidemment l'institution que je représente, le Musée d'art et d'histoire de Genève. Our Musée d'art et d'histoire is one of Switzerland's largest museums. It's the place to be, where collections of horology, applied arts, fine arts, graphic arts are conserved and studied. Deeply established in the old city, it's a reflection both of our local history and of the links his citizens have formed with all over the world. One part of our missions, a part of the management of huge collections, is to present this heritage to the public. Watchmaking has a very special place at our museum. Cette collection d'horlogerie, émaillerie, bijouterie, miniatures compte en effet plus de 20 000 objets, œuvres d'art, qui, associés aux boîtes à musique, récemment représentent des productions historiques de la fabrique de Genève et qui inscrivent cette activité propre à Genève dans l'histoire européenne, voire mondiale. Dès le XVIIe siècle, en effet, la production est exportée de par le monde et le nom de Genève est porté par des objets à travers le globe. La présentation que nous avons choisi de présenter, de faire découvrir au public dans le salon GemGenève, met spécialement en évidence la fascination qu'exercent les sons produits par la technique et les simulacres de gestes reproduits par la mécanique d'art, automates et musique. Ces objets évoquent la diversification de la production horlogère. Les horlogers ont rivalisé d'imagination et d'invention pour représenter des objets toujours plus sophistiqués à leur clientèle. Et d'où la présentation de montres compliquées, dont les complications donc, sont faites de sons et de gestes. Je rappelle juste ici que le grand Ferdinand Berthoud, horloger français du XVIIIe siècle, avait défini l'horlogerie comme étant la science du mouvement. Et ce mouvement, justement, on le retrouve non seulement dans le cœur des montres, dans les mouvements, à travers les rouages, ou la mécanique simplement de fonctionnement horaire, mais on le retrouve également sur les cadrans avec des figures qui s'animent au passage ou à la demande. Quant à la boîte à musique, c'est une invention genevoise. C'est un horloger du XVIIIe siècle, fin du XVIIIe siècle, qui invente ou qui remplace les carillons de cloches incluses dans des montres à sonnerie par un système à cylindre à picot. Et vous verrez dans l'exposition le contraste entre la miniaturisation qui a été toujours le défi lancé aux horlogers, la miniaturisation des objets vers du minuscule et le mouvement inverse qui intéresse les boîtes à musique qui part du minuscule pour devenir de plus en plus grand, pour pouvoir accueillir des cylindres de plus en plus volumineux, des mécanismes qui accueillent plus de mélodies, qui rallongent aussi la durée des mélodies et qui donnent une ampleur formidable au son. Voilà, cette participation du musée d'art et d'histoire au salon GemGenève s'inscrit donc dans les missions de médiation culturelle et de collaboration avec le réseau des acteurs présents de cette activité qui est fortement donc liée au nom de Genève. Du coup, je finis en remerciant chaleureusement nos hôtes qui ont formulé cette invitation. Merci à Mathieu. Merci à François Junot d'avoir accepté aussi de nous rejoindre dans cette aventure. Merci au Musée international d'horlogerie de la Chaux-de-Fonds d'avoir contribué à élargir un peu la présentation. On renforce ainsi la participation et la contribution transversale de nos institutions. Le patrimoine public est mis en évidence aujourd'hui dans cette exposition et j'espère que vous apprécierez la présentation. Merci.
Bonjour, je suis désolé, mon anglais n'est pas assez bon pour que je puisse me présenter correctement. Donc, je m'appelle François Junot, j'habite Sainte-Croix, je suis né à Sainte-Croix, un petit village dans le Jura, au-dessus d'Yverdon, pas très loin de Lausanne non plus. J'ai toujours été bercé dans un monde mécanique depuis tout petit, puisque mon arrière-grand-père, mon grand-père et mon père, on a presque tous fait la même école. Et mon grand-père a travaillé chez Torrance, les boîtes à musique. Mon autre grand-père chez Paillard, il fabriquait aussi des claviers pour des boîtes à musique. Et puis moi, j'ai eu la chance de rencontrer dans les années 70 un artisan français qui s'appelait Michel Bertrand, qui venait de Paris, qui est venu s'installer à Sainte-Croix pour se fournir en boîte à musique et moteur à ressort. À ce moment-là, les automates n'étaient pas très connus, c'était plutôt en voie de disparition. Et dès l'âge de 14 ans, j'étais passionné de rencontrer ce personnage, cet artisan qui était pour moi mon mentor. Et puis au sortir de l'école mécanique, j'ai fait un stage de 2 ans chez lui. Ensuite, je suis parti à Lausanne pour faire une formation en sculpture et dessin. Puis en 83, je suis revenu à Sainte-Croix pour ouvrir mon propre atelier d'une manière très naïve, en pensant que le travail allait me tomber sur la tête. Ça a été assez dur les 7 premières années. J'ai dû quand même pas mal me déplacer pour essayer d'avoir du travail à gauche et à droite. Heureusement que des grands collectionneurs d'automates et de musique mécanique m'ont donné mes premiers travaux, que ce soit Monsieur Claude Marchal, le musée du CIMA à Sainte-Croix, et puis ensuite des maisons horlogères, de fil en aiguille, je me suis un peu spécialisé dans des automates toujours plus compliqués, aussi grâce à des collectionneurs japonais pour qui j'ai fait pas mal d'automates dessinateurs et écrivains dans le style des Jacques Hédreau de Neuchâtel. Et puis maintenant, depuis peut-être 2010-2012, j'ai été approché par des maisons de joaillerie, telles que Van Cleef, pour ne pas les citer, pour lesquelles j'essaye de redonner aussi vie à une tradition d'automate en utilisant de la joaillerie, mais pas en recopiant des pièces qui ont déjà été faites. Si possible, d'amener quelque chose de nouveau au niveau esthétique et design. Et puis, donc, il y a une grande demande qui vient actuellement. Donc, mon activité principale maintenant, c'est la transmission, c'est de former des jeunes, d'engager des jeunes. D'ailleurs, on n'est pas beaucoup, on est seulement 7 dans mon atelier. Mais ça ne fait rien, il y a toujours plus d'engouement autour des automates, cette fascination du mouvement, comme disait Estelle Fallet. Donc voilà, je perpétue une tradition qui s'était un petit peu éteinte, mais maintenant qui revient en force. Et puis voilà. Donc, puis je vous remercie de m'avoir invité ici, de pouvoir parler un petit peu de mon métier. Et si vous avez des questions après j'ai aussi fait des sculptures animées, pas seulement des automates qui sortent de l'horlogerie, mais aussi des automates qui sont plus, je sais pas comment dire, peut-être plus personnels, mais différents, mais qui n'utilisent pas forcément des matériaux précieux. Parce que le monde des automates est infini. On peut vraiment créer, mais comme bon nous semble. Et aujourd'hui, il y a une chose aussi qui nous aide beaucoup, c'est ces nouvelles technologies, telles que la simulation par ordinateur. Hein. Ça paraît un petit peu bizarre par rapport à un métier séculaire, mais l'impression 3D, toutes ces genres de nouvelles technologies nous aident beaucoup pour faire des prototypes, pour avancer plus vite, pour avoir plus de créativité et à l'arrivée faire des objets encore plus précis qui se faisaient à la fin du 18e. Et je suis toujours fasciné de voir ce qu'ils étaient capables de faire au temps où ils n'avaient que des lampes à pétrole, des tours à pédales et puis pas d'électricité. Et de voir ces chefs-d'œuvre qui ont été réalisés, j'ai toujours été admiratif et j'ai toujours voulu en faire comme une espèce d'attirance envers tout ce qui bouge, tout ce qui est mécanique, que ce soit de l'horlogerie, mais même la robotique m'intéresse. Il y a toujours des technologies intéressantes en robotique. Pour prendre un exemple, on utilise aussi des technologies vraiment directement issues de cette robotique, telles que les matériaux tungstène, les fils tungstène. Donc, c'est des fils qui sont aussi pas plus gros qu'un cheveu, qui vous permettent d'animer des oiseaux, différents automates, avec plus de sécurité qu'à l'époque où ils utilisaient du fil de soie, qui forcément, après un certain temps, cassait. Ça, c'est juste un petit exemple parmi beaucoup d'autres. Et puis voilà, je crois que j'ai terminé ce que je voulais dire. Je vous remercie de votre attention. Voilà, merci.
Merci beaucoup Estelle et François. Et on est vraiment ravis de vous accueillir ici pour ce projet-là. Je crois que vous devez quitter la scène pour laisser monter Justin Prim. You still have like few minutes to think. So, as you may, I will. So, as you may know, in addition to all the GemGenève exhibitors, we are trying to develop step by step the area of the contemporary designers of the show. For that part, we work with Vivian Baker, journalist, art historian, and author of many jury books, for the curation of what she called the designer vivarium since the beginning of GemGenève. In addition to the vivarium, Nadesh Tota, head of exhibitors and board member of the show, develops two other sections dedicating to contemporary designers, the emerging talents and the new designers. So I will leave the floor for you. Thank you.
Need to do that. So just for a quick recap for any new press here, and I know we're a bit short of time. when Ronnie and Thomas first conceived of the idea of GemGenève, they invited me to curate or to bring a section to the show that would introduce new designers or young designers. And I felt in my work that I really wanted to give a platform to independent individual designers, not necessarily young or new, but designers who were under the radar. And yeah, I'm delighted to say I think it's been a great success. Now we do it twice a year, so I have a slightly smaller group because I have quite strict criteria. I look for designers with a really strong, singular creative vision, really for designers who have something to say. Oh, thank you. Something to say through their jewelry. I avoid anything that's derivative, so I'm looking for innovation and a certain sophistication of craftsmanship. I love that. And of course, as a historian, I'm always really keen to see a designer who has respect and reverence for the past, who can pull that sort of thread of history through millions of thousands of years, really, to today. And I really believe that you have to understand what has gone before in order to really know what's new. So for this edition, let me see, we have five designers, and I'm really pleased to say that 4 of them are entirely new. And I think that there's often a theme that emerges through the choice. This time it's really all about creative freedom, because one of the other aspects that I really look for is difference. I want all the designers to be very different one from the other, really to represent the whole versatility that we have in our world of jewels. So I think we've really managed that this time. There's great creative freedom, huge ingenuity, and versatility. So I think we're going to start with the first returning, with just one returning designer, and that's Elena Okutova, who actually Nadej discovered, and she was in your Emerging Talents, yes, a few years ago. I absolutely loved her work. She was born in St. Petersburg. She studied artistic metalworking in Moscow, and then she established her own brand in 2009 with her mother, with a beautiful mother who's here, by the way. Both of them are exceptionally beautiful. Her work is really rooted in Russian traditions of artistry and craftsmanship, the use of enamels and colored gemstones. So there's something really Russian, but also international about the jewels. And I love the way that she's also captured Russian folktale and fable. And I think in this way, she taps into these elaborate tradition of oral storytelling that's, thank you, so often, sorry. So often handed down through generations, and that's very often connected to the natural world. But she also integrates an eclectic range of themes and inspirations, Byzantine, Orientalist. Let me see, we should have a few more. This is something new this season. Orientalist, modern European, everything from Chinese lacquer art to the African savanna, from the poignant beauty. Oh, sorry, let's go back. Sorry, go back. Oh, okay. How do I go back? Is it that? Let's see. No, okay. It is that one. Okay, lovely. Yeah. And yes, she also draws inspiration from 20th century architecture, and what I love also from the flamboyant and jewel-adoring personality of Peggy Guggenheim. And she feels that all of an artist's themes and inspirations come from very early life, and she says, I create space for a miracle. So next, something really completely different, that's Ushaba. It's a very new brand launched this year. let me find them, earlier this year. It's a brainchild of a trio of friends, of art lovers and collectors, including Gillian Carr, who is now the managing director. Now, they describe their brand as a sustainable art and design house that breathes new life into forgotten materials. And their founding concept of sustainability and circularity is seen here in their debut, very innovative debut collection. It's called Connection Salvaged, which I'm proud to say they're presenting here for the first time at GemGenève. So it was a brand that was conceived during lockdown, and it explores the connectivity of today's technology, and also its relationship with the precious resources that go into the making of technology, and that are discarded, of course, as part of the inbuilt obsolescence of all the technology that we use today. So the jewels are composed of fragments of electronic waste. I know that there are quite a few brands that are using the gold and silver and the precious metals, but they've gone even further. So they're crafting jewels using mobile phone circuit boards, which you can see here, charging cables. Yeah, that's a circuit board from a mobile phone, looks beautifully like an emerald, set with an emerald there, USB sticks, plugs, cables, and they're all set in recycled 22 karat gold or 18 karat white gold and some in silver, and accented with diamonds, sustainably sourced diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and sapphires. They're all one of a kind, made to order as limited editions, and they are handcrafted by goldsmiths in Sicily. And I think they have the wonderful look of objets trouvés, of like unearthed treasure, wonderful unearthed antiquities, like all futuristic fragments of the past. So I think it's really, really original, really of the moment. And there you can see that jewels have been made from charging cables, very much, and they're more the earrings made from a circuit board. So I think it's really, really modern. Lean Hayner, I'm really delighted to have him with us today. I have asked him a few times to participate in the designer vivarium. He is a goldsmith and jeweler, so he makes everything himself from Holland. And he explains that his mission is to unlock the natural forces that he feels are embedded in the precious materials that are his guiding inspiration. I've just had a quick look at them. They're absolutely technically miraculous. They're minimal, but also sensual. They're strong and serene. They're small and elegant, but very powerful. And his work is defined, as you can see here, by this flowing movement of these natural forces, that although the jewels are really abstract, they often seem to, let's see if we can see here, they often seem to suggest naturalistic or animalier theme. So he starts with a single strip of metal, which is pre-sanded, and it's a wonderful light straw color, some in 22 karat gold. And then he hand models, he shapes, he twists, he bends the gold, allowing the metal to dictate its design, to tell him what it wants to be. And he uses manual dexterity to turn this force and strength into silky fluidity. And once the ring is shaped, it's completely left untouched. There's no polishing. And what's really fascinating is that the stones are added while he's doing this. Ida and I have no idea how he manages that. So there are no prongs. He's absolutely anti-prongs, as I am, I have to say. And so the stones are really held by by tension. And very new for Lean, and presented here again for the first time at GemGenève, is a series of rings sculpted in steel, in blackened steel, which he felt gave him some new ideas, a new strength, and also really a suggestion of naturalistic themes. Leah Lamb is based in the UK. Again, she's a very, very new a new brand launched just over a year ago, and she launched it with 4 very carefully considered collections: Beam, Lagom, Unity, and Passepartout. And each is based on a concept or a story or an emotional experience and distilled to very pure and powerful and geometric form. She's lived all around the world. She studied law and innovation and embarked on a career in the legal tech industry. But as so many designers, she'd always been captivated by jewelry. And then for some 3 years, she said from 2016, she decided to follow her heart, and she taught herself as much as possible, learning at the bench at the Goldsmiths Centre in London. She trained in goldsmithing and wax modelling in Rome, and she studied jewellery history and savoir-faire in Paris. So her style is resolutely modernist, graphic, it's architectural, influenced by the Bauhaus, brutalism and modernism. And yet, what I love about it is that this rigorous minimalism is underpinned by emotional depth and meaning. And particularly, she's on a mission to contemporize the traditional messages of love and commitment and celebration. Actually, this is, yeah. She's a keen dancer, and so she infuses her designs with a kind of rhythmic sense of togetherness and synchronicity. That's very important. The harmony of partnership. This is from the Lagom collection, which is all about the partnership, about the tension between two partners. As she says, too little and the silhouettes fall apart too much, and the dance looks stiff. So it has to be just right. And she aims for this moment of effortless ease and grace. And also she makes the analogy, because although dance should look effortless, then behind that effortlessness is studied execution of precision, purpose. Every movement has to be carefully worked out. All the jewels are actually handmade in London. There's another Lagom, and this is part of the Unity collection, in which she has used white and yellow gold seamlessly combined, again to evoke a moment of togetherness, a sense of togetherness. And this is from the Passepartout, which is about travel, which she feels is very important to broaden the mind. And the Passepartout is taken from framing. So these frame your special moments, so frame the stones and frame your memories. And then last, but very much not least, is NVW. It's Natasha Whiteman. And I had a few people telling me about Natasha in London and suggesting that I look at her jewellery. She's completely new to jewellery. She has a background as an actor, the jewels are sort of darkly romantic, and she wanted to turn to jewellery particularly to tell the stories that had begun to really enthrall her. So stories of the really unexpected British wildlife, but particularly the mystical raven. And if you know, the raven is a massive, majestic black bird. Many of them are kept in the Tower of London. So central to her work is her commitment, a really admirable commitment to searching out and preserving traditional craft skills, and she finds all of her craftspeople in the UK. So her first collection, which is inspired by the raven, features this intricate, meticulous hand carving of old, very, very old, eons old organic materials, including jet, of course, but also moorland boxwood, which I didn't know, is a wonderful British wood. And these are all depictions of her beloved ravens. She can tell you more about it, but basically, she says the ravens have held a special place in her heart since she was asked or given the opportunity to rear and then rewild two of these huge and powerful birds on her land in Sussex. And she tells a wonderful story about how she formed a relationship with these birds and became really fascinated by them. So each of them is a miniature sculptural masterwork. The details are exquisitely refined of the bird's feathers and features, and then they're mounted into very elegant, delicate, one-of-a-kind jewels with, I think, a kind of Edwardian feel to them, in precious metals and gemstones, mainly antique stones or old cuts. And there's a wonderful necklace. No, we don't have that. This is interesting because it's based around an antique enamel brooch, which I'm sure we'll see quite a few of them here at the show, the sort of American enameled flower brooch, and I loved the combination of the old and the new. And each of the jewels is really layered with tales, with myths, with meanings and messages. But Natasha says the final element that makes her jewels comes from the stories of the strong and independent and creative women who wear her jewels. So please do come and visit, and it's a nice opportunity to actually talk to each of the designers and hear their point of view. So very happy to welcome you later. Thank you.
Merci Viviane, thank you very much. Je vais le faire en français du coup. Donc, dans le village des designers, nous partageons ils partagent l'espace avec les talents émergents ainsi que les new designers. Donc, on m'a plusieurs fois demandé quelle était la différence entre les deux. Les talents émergents sont des jeunes créateurs que je trouve soit par du bouche à oreille, soit sur les réseaux sociaux, et qui n'ont pour le moment aucune visibilité. Donc, on s'est dit, pourquoi est-ce que les designers qui étaient jeunes, qui n'avaient pas forcément les moyens, d'ailleurs, quand je dis jeunes, c'est faux, ils ne sont pas forcément jeunes. Alors, on en a certains qui ont à peu près 27 ans d'expérience, qui seront présents ici, et qui finalement n'ont pas soit les moyens justement d'avoir cette visibilité, de faire des salons. Pour certains d'entre eux, c'est le premier salon de leur vie, y compris même après 27 ans de travail. Et donc, on a décidé, depuis le début, finalement depuis 2018, d'offrir l'opportunité à ces jeunes créateurs de cohabiter également avec finalement d'autres exposants, d'autres professionnels, et d'être confrontés à un public privé, particulier, et aux autres exposants qui pourront être leurs fournisseurs d'ailleurs. Je vais y arriver. Ah, voilà. Alors, l'un de nos premiers talents émergents est Asoleon, qui vient de Chine et qui justement a 27 ans d'expérience et qui travaille le titane depuis très très longtemps. Ce qu'on a décidé de faire, c'est que c'est vrai pour... Alors, qu'est-ce qui l'a bloqué pour être connu? Parce qu'il y a un travail qui est incroyable, et il a été l'un des premiers à travailler le titane en Chine. Il a d'ailleurs été surnommé le prince du titane. mais il n'a pas la langue pour s'exporter. Donc, il parle uniquement chinois, donc très compliqué pour lui, du coup, de sortir du pays. Et il y a énormément de talents un petit peu partout dans le monde qui, finalement, ne savent pas comment se vendre. On va dire, après, je pense qu'il y a chacun son métier aussi. Et là, on lui a donné cette opportunité, justement, de sortir de Chine et de pouvoir exposer ces pièces qui sont très reconnaissables. Alors, j'ai eu l'occasion, pour la plupart des designers, étant donné qu'ils sont loin, j'ai pas forcément l'opportunité de voir et de toucher les pièces avant. Mais avec Azoléon, j'ai pu avoir ce plaisir, et vous verrez que ces pièces, finalement, même si on se dit qu'elles peuvent ressembler à d'autres pièces du fait que le titane soit de couleur bleue, vous verrez que la manière dont tout est serti et la manière dont il dessine et il travaille fait que son style est très reconnaissable. Nous avons Rite of Passage by Teresa Escudero, qui est basée en Espagne, qui utilise des pierres, certaines pierres brutes, des météorites, comme vous pouvez le voir sur cette photo, et qui du coup n'est pas dans la symétrie, mais qui va vraiment laisser, elle va construire ses bijoux par rapport aux pierres qu'elle va trouver. Je vais passer brièvement un petit peu sur les autres. Je sais qu'on est en retard et je suis une des dernières. Nous avons Fred Fa, basé en Belgique, qui lui fait ses bijoux de A à Z, c'est-à-dire que c'est lui qui va réaliser ses gouachés jusqu'au sertissage. Il a travaillé pour des grandes maisons et a finalement décidé de se mettre à son compte. Donc c'est pareil, c'est pas un débutant, mais voilà, il s'est dit qu'il faudrait peut-être qu'il trouve une plateforme pour se faire voir et qu'on puisse le découvrir. Donc pour lui, par exemple, c'est son premier salon et il a créé des pièces uniquement pour GemGenève. Donc il a vraiment travaillé nuit et jour pendant quelques mois et il va présenter une collection que je n'ai pas encore mise ici puisque les pièces viennent d'être terminées, qui sera plutôt un bestiaire, donc avec des animaux. Pour la première fois, le Brésil est représenté à GemGenève, c'est un nouveau pays, donc on était très contents. Denise Cassou, Couture Jewelry, vient donc du Brésil. Tout est très féminin. C'est une femme qui est passionnée par la photographie, par la mode, et elle mixe les pierres précieuses, comme sur cette photo, vous pouvez voir les 2 émeraudes, et les pierres dures. Tout est dans la féminité, dans la finesse, et je vous laisserai découvrir, c'est vraiment très intéressant. Ivona Tamborska faisait déjà partie des talents émergents en mai 2022. Elle revient avec de nouvelles pièces. Donc il y a toujours ce côté très féerique, très enfantin, mais avec une histoire. Il faut vraiment qu'elle vous partage cette histoire, c'est son histoire avec vous. On m'a demandé quels étaient mes critères par rapport aux talents émergents. Et contrairement à Vivienne Becker, j'ai dit, mais je crois que je n'ai pas de critères. Et en réfléchissant un petit peu, donc je me suis posé ces questions et finalement, je ne recherche pas la perfection, je cherche une histoire. Et vu que je fais beaucoup de choses avec le cœur, j'aimerais ressentir quelque chose en voyant ces pièces. Donc ça peut être de l'intrigue, ça peut être même une incompréhension. C'est-à-dire que s'il y a une incompréhension, c'est qu'il y a quelque chose où il faut aller encore un petit peu plus loin. Et les histoires de ces créateurs. Donc chaque pièce a véritablement une histoire. Et c'est ce que je trouve fascinant. Et nous avons Wallis Ronk qui revient, qui a fait partie des talents émergents en novembre passé. Je pense que plusieurs d'entre vous le connaissez déjà. Alors typiquement, donc, c'est un designer chinois qui vit à Madrid depuis quelques années et qui n'avait jamais fait de salon, qui avait peut-être 200 followers sur Instagram avant GemGenève novembre. et il a, à la suite de GemGenève, explosé. Il est très en vogue, il a beaucoup de travail, il ne sait plus donner de la tête et il nous a fait l'honneur de nous faire une petite place dans son calendrier pour reparticiper à GemGenève cette année et on en est très heureux. Je n'ai pas mis ces nouvelles pièces exprès. Je vous laisse les découvrir et c'est vraiment chouette. Et c'est vraiment du Wallis Rank. Nous avons donc également la partie des new designers. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'un new designer? C'est un petit peu compliqué, donc je pense que nous allons changer le nom et nous sommes en train justement de repenser. Les new designers, à la base, étaient les designers qui n'étaient pas forcément, qui ne rentraient pas forcément dans les critères de Vivienne Baker ou qui n'étaient pas non plus des talents émergents, puisque déjà installés, déjà visibles par beaucoup de monde. Et nous nous sommes dit, il faut un autre carré designer finalement pour ces personnes qui ne rentrent ni dans une catégorie ni dans l'autre. Et donc, new designer n'est pas vraiment le mot juste. Donc, on va repenser ça et peut-être le rendre un petit peu plus grand. Alors, je suis très heureuse d'accueillir cette année Ostili, qui est basé à Hong Kong, qui est un designer complètement psychédélique, alors, ces pièces sont identifiables, mais très variées. C'est-à-dire que c'est tout un univers qui est d'inspiration chinoise, mais également pop. Et tout est très coloré. C'est vraiment des pièces incroyables. Et je ne les ai pas encore vues en vrai. Et j'ai vraiment hâte, parce que je suis fan. À Winsu, qui nous a été conseillé recommandé par Bazaar Jewelry China, est une jeune créatrice qui crée des bijoux, des broches, un petit peu, il y a côté enfantin, de nouveau très coloré, et je pense qu'on va les découvrir tous ensemble après. Marie Jaïva est basée à New York. Elle a été designer pour des grandes maisons, Piaget par exemple, et s'est mise du coup à son compte il y a 3-4 ans. Et j'ai hâte de voir également. Je suis désolée, je ne les ai pas vus en vrai, mais j'ai vraiment hâte de découvrir tout ça. Nous avons Serendipity Jewelry qui est basée en France, qui a déjà fait partie. Elle n'en est pas à sa première participation. Elle a été une première année en tant qu'exposante. Ensuite, elle est passée dans les talents émergents. Et maintenant, elle est dans les new designers, puisqu'elle a une collection qui est un petit peu plus importante et qu'elle est déjà bien installée. Nous avons également Tenzo qui participe pour la 6e fois ou la 5e fois à GemGenève. Donc nous sommes ravis de l'accueillir à nouveau. Tenzo faisait partie du designer Vivarium et a été donc découvert par Vivienne Baker. Nous sommes ravis de l'accueillir à nouveau. Donc j'espère que vous allez apprécier tous ces nouveaux talents dans le village designer. Merci.
And in addition to the designers of the Designer Vivarium and the emerging talents and the new designers, we are very pleased to welcome again the project Strong and Precious, whose the aim is to highlight Ukrainian young designers. Merci. So for the third edition. In addition to the main exhibition and the contemporary designers, and to a strong program of talks and panel discussions that we hope we will enjoy during all the days of the show, I'm very pleased to announce new concept that you will be able to discover this year. We will have 3 grands entretiens with live interviews of personalities of the jewelry world, with Alain Adler interviewed by Melanie Grant, Gaetano Gavalieri, interviewed by Andrea Machalova, and Benoît Repelin, interviewed by Melanie Grant too. We will have as well, if you've seen the piano, we will have like some musical afterworks organized with, in collaboration with the Grand Théâtre de Genève and the Haute École de Musique de Genève, with a very nice musical program proposed by 3 young and talented pianists. And you will have like a first view of this afterworks, like tonight at the official ceremony. Why do we work for GemGenève? For human relations, for respect, for synergies, and to create opportunities. This is why we are developing projects with art and jury schools, such as the Gouache contest and the Grand Théâtre de Genève and Ed School project. This is why we launched a new project with Donajul and Italian schools to develop with Laura a new network of jury students involved in GemGenève. This is why we are trying to set up some working sessions with the Association Gémologie and Francophonie about new goals, new challenge of the jury world, and maybe new ideas and new solutions. This is why we developed a new concept this edition, La Villa des Arts Perdus, to present some métiers d'art of our world, such as lapidarists, pearl peeler, polisher, art gemstone mosaists, chainmaker, among others. So you will be able to enjoy some demonstrations with them and to meet them. Some demonstrations will be organized all days long until the end of the show, and this will maybe create new vocations and bridge between generations, between the students, between the exhibitors, and the métier d'art. So finally, we work for GemGenève to create links between past, present, and future. And as a link between past and future of the lapidarists, I leave the floor to Justin Prim to introduce his métier d'art. Thank you.
Hello. So far, we've seen a lot of jewelry. We've seen some automatons, but I'm here representing a different part of the gem trade, which is the lapidary side, the gem cutting side. So today I want to talk about lost arts lapidary. I'm Justin Prim. I'm an American gem cutter and also a chronicler of gem cutting history. I am also a gem cutting teacher, and during the lockdown I wrote my first book, which is The Secret Teachings of Gem Cutting. And for almost a decade now I've been traveling around the world, meeting gem cutters, studying under them, documenting what they do, and trying to understand how gem cutting works all over the world. And today I'd like to talk to you about this art form that is becoming rare and in some places is on the verge of becoming extinct. So I would like to propose that manipulating stone is the most human thing that we can do. We've been manipulating stones longer than we've been human. This stone tool was made by our ancient ancestors over 300 million years ago. But we're not here to talk about tools. We're here to talk about beauty and adornment. The art of modifying natural materials to make jewelry is older than farming. Other than hunting, cutting, polishing, and drilling stones is probably the thing that we've been doing the longest as a species. For at least 30,000 years, humans have been making gemstone jewelry. Sometimes these jewels are talismanic, like this 4,000-plus-year-old engraved jet necklace. Sometimes they're religious, like this 3,800-year-old piece from Egypt. Through these tens of thousands of years, we've been learning and adding to our skill sets as lapidaries. By the beginning of the Bronze Age, we'd figured out cabochons. By the end of the medieval period, we were writing extensive tomes about stones, their properties, and how to polish them. By the Renaissance, we learned how to make flat facets, which started us down a totally new design path. New technology had to be developed in order to make these new designs. The hand crank lapidary bench that you can see here would have been a huge improvement over the old ways of cutting stones. And when the technology gets better, of course, the designs get more complicated, like we see in this 16th century step-cut emerald. In the 17th century, we developed mechanical devices to help us do even more precise cutting work. And of course, as soon as these new machines become widespread, new faceting patterns begin to be developed, like the rose cut that we can see at the top of this incredible emerald vessel. In the 19th century, new machines were invented in France that allowed gem cutting to be done faster and more accurately, allowing faceted stones to become a more common commodity instead of the highly exclusive and expensive symbol of divinity that they once were. Now, some people in the gem trade just see gem cutting as a small part of a larger chain of manufacturing in the gemstone industry, but I would argue that gemstone cutting is the heart that the gem and jewelry trade revolve around. Without the gem cutter, gemstones can't be used in jewelry, and without gemstone jewelry, there isn't much jewelry left to choose from. To see a little bit of evidence of this, we can look at some of the biggest names of the brands that we follow and are inspired by and see what they're pushing, see what they're advertising in their social media today. From one country to another, from one jeweler to another, big or small, colored stones and diamonds is the focal point, is the center point. Of course, we need the metals, we need the precious gold and silver, but without the colored stones, what are we holding together? And without the gemstone cutter, we don't have the colored stones to put into the jewelry. So from the 19th century, faceting technology spread all around the world. Machines that were developed only 35 kilometers from where I'm sitting today are now powering almost every major gem cutting hub in the world. And until recently, the lapidary arts were a viable career choice in Europe. Young people were being trained in schools and through apprenticeships, but then something changed. The world changed, maybe. So let's look at some numbers really quick. France has been cutting gems as an industry for over 800 years. France has literally changed the world history of gem cutting several times. 100 years ago, there were 8,000 gem cutters producing material for the Parisian jewelry industry and for Geneva's watch industry. Today, things have changed. We've gone from 8,000 to less than 100 cutters in the whole country. Cutting houses have told me that the national apprenticeship program in France has become obsolete, and only a few of the houses will take on gem cutting apprentices these days. In Germany, we see a similar story, a gem cutting hub with a long tradition as professional lapidaries who invented technology that influenced gem cutting all over Europe. They helped change the gem cutting narrative in many countries around the world, but today, something has changed. I've been told that there are less than 100 cutters in Germany today, though we still see some younger cutters thanks to a nationally supported apprenticeship program. In the Czech Republic, famous for its garnets and for its cutting, we see another similar story with a long history and innovations that have affected many parts of the world. And sadly, we see the same change. The Czech Republic has the last surviving lapidary trade school in Europe, but despite this, their industry boasts less than 30 working cutters today. England, one of the major gem cutting hubs of Europe, has seen a similar story. They've absorbed much of the wisdom of France, Germany, the Czech Republic. They've used it, they've exported it, and today there are less than 30 professional gemstone cutters on the whole island, and only 4 of them are under the age of 40 years old. In Geneva, the tradition of gem cutting is not as old as some of its neighbors, but it still has a long history in cutting stones. Switzerland invented its own technology for cutting small but perfect stones for the watch industry, which it has exported to a few other countries. Today we see an industry in its death throes, with only a few workshops and less than 20 cutters, partially due to the fact that the National Apprenticeship Program ended in 2011. So I think we can see a trend here, and maybe some of you are thinking the reason why the European gemstone trade has declined is because Asia has taken over all of the gemstone cutting work. Well, this is partially true, but I've spent the last 6 years living in Asia, and I've witnessed the same trend. Thailand is 10 years away from a fatal crisis in the lapidary trade. No new cutters are being trained, and many of the old cutters are reaching retirement age. In India, senior cutters are becoming Uber drivers to make more money, and young people don't want to learn this trade. In Sri Lanka, there are a lot of skilled younger and senior cutters with modern technology, though it sometimes can be difficult to get the stones in and out of the country. And in China, where labor prices are the lowest, the cutting industry is still young. Though mainland China has been carving jade for thousands of years, they've been faceting stones for less than 30 years, and their technology is lacking. We also see a push towards automatic cutting, machine cutting, but with its low yields, it's unlikely to be appealing for high-end materials. So everywhere that I've been in the last year, whether it's France, America, Thailand, or England, I've heard the same thing. We need more local gem cutters. So I'll finish this presentation with a question. How can we revitalize the lapidary industry? And here's just a few talking points. Train more gem cutters locally. We need more gem cutters in all of the jewelry hubs around the world to do repairs and recuts and all of the things that the local jewelers need. We need to work with the local governments to reinstitute apprenticeship support programs, because without help from the government, gem cutting houses cannot afford to pay apprenticeship wages while they're not producing any materials. We need to encourage the purchasing of local handmade goods like gems and jewelry. If more people want to buy locally made goods, then the demand for locally made artisans increases. We need to keep gem cutting local. We need to not send all of our gem cutting to Thailand, to Asia, to India. We need to keep it locally, whether that's in Geneva for the watch industry, in Paris for the Parisian industry, in London for the hat and garden industry. We need gem cutters to be in all those places. We need competitive salaries for lapidaries, because if you've spent 5 or 6 years doing an apprenticeship, you'd like to make more money than the grocery store clerk. And finally, we need to make gem cutting attractive. If we want young people to join, they need to know what it is. They need to be interested to do something with their hands, to do something creative, to do something meaningful, to be a part of something. So we need to let the young people know that this is a possibility. Of course, there's so much more to say about this process, but that's a conversation for another day or maybe another afternoon. If you'd like to see gem cutting lapidary demonstrated in GemGenève, Victoria and I are going to be over in the Villa des Arts Perdus, and we're going to be demonstrating faceting on the Swiss-made Bunter machine, recutting some stones. And if you're interested in the book, I'm going to be over at the Lido Books booth tomorrow doing book signing. So thank you to GemGenève, thank you to all you guys for being here, and good luck with all your lapidary endeavors.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Donc je crois qu'on a terminé la conférence de presse. Est-ce que vous auriez des questions? Do you have like so many questions? So, merci.
Jewellery Outlook, a question for Ronnie and Thomas. How is the market now? What is the health of the market now for fine jewellery and also vintage and antique jewellery? And also a few comments, if you may, on the impact of inflation in many parts of the world on the demand for fine jewellery. Is fine jewellery increasingly seen as a safe haven against rising prices and the rising cost of living and as a potential investment?
Sorry, hello? Hello, yes? Yeah, I think the market so far is very healthy, at least for jewelry, for creative jewelry, for colored stones. Diamonds, big diamonds, may be a little bit weaker at the moment. Probably there's less demand. Vintage jewelry is very, very good, very popular, especially signed pieces, not only the big names, but also less known names. And sorry, David, I didn't get the question.
About inflation. Just wondering what impact high inflation in many parts of the world is having on the demand for fine jewellery and also antique and vintage jewellery?
I think it would probably help the jewelry, but there's no panic yet, you know. There's no, like it used to be in the 30s or 20s in Germany, I think, and where there was hyperinflation. I don't think there is, it affects probably a little bit, but I think the main aspect of jewelry is still to adorn beautiful ladies.
Very, very quick follow-up before I hand over the microphone. Are you seeing increasing demand for fancy color diamonds relative to white diamonds within the jewellery that you're selling or in the marketplace generally?
Yeah, I think colored diamonds are very popular. White diamonds in smaller sizes are also popular. Small melee had gone up tremendously. It's calmed down a little bit, and colored stones, fine quality colored stones, have been extremely difficult to source also.
Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. I have a question for Mr. Prim. Thank you very much for your historic presentation. Very interesting. But I really would like to know what you think about the future. What do you think about the gem cutting trade? Is it a dying trade? Is it something we should keep alive? Or is it going to disappear one day because of our automated laser cutting? So I would really like to know what you think about it.
No, it's a good question. I'm optimistic. I'm definitely watching the trends, watching the technology change, and looking at these automatic machines that are coming. And but when we look at the high-end material, and this is such a great place to express that, the high-end material is always going to need a special hand, a master cutter who can really understand the rough or the stone that's going to be recut. And the types of things that we can do now with automatic cutting just they can't do that. Maybe someday in the future, hopefully after my time, that maybe will be a jeopardizing factor for gem cutters. But what I've been seeing is, as he said, a big demand for colored stones, high-end colored stones that need perfect cutting or special cutting for that material to bring out the color, to maintain weight, to make it beautiful for the market that it's in. And I think that we will always need that master cutter, and we will need them in the locations where the jewelers are at. So if you're making jewelry in Paris, we've talked to all the gem cutters in Paris. They don't want to send stones out of Paris. They don't want to send them out of France. So you need that workforce locally, whether you're in London or New York or Paris or wherever. I don't see machines taking over, and I don't see it as a dying art, because we see that jewelry is still selling, gemstones are still selling, people are still buying it. And until we start making jewelry completely out of rough gems, which I don't see happening, I mean, it does happen a little bit, but as a major thing, we need the gem cutters, and we're going to need the trade. Of course, it's evolving. It's always been evolving. And as I look at the history of 500 years of faceting, even just looking at France and Switzerland, it's changed a lot over the last 100 years even. So, of course, it will change more, but I'm optimistic that, we're going to keep training new gem cutters, and hopefully the masters will keep passing down their mastery to apprentices who can take up the flame. So, yeah, thanks.
Just building up on that last question, for the whole panel, what are your thoughts on the likely impact of AI, artificial intelligence, on the future of the jewelry and gem industry, particularly, say, relating to jewelry design? Because I understand now that with ChatGPT, if you make certain clear, simple instructions, you'll get quite a coherent jewelry design within a fraction of a second. So how will AI impact upon the future of the jewelry and gem industry? For the whole panel, please.
well, I'll say a bit on cutting and pass it down, but I think definitely, I'm sure in the next 5 years, we will see AI interacting with these cutting machines. I have friends in Canada who have these mass production automatic cutting machines, and they're already very smart. You know, you can input designs from software. So I imagine as soon as the AI can make the designs, we're going to see that partnership happening. I think for the diamond cutting world, it's definitely going to happen. We already have fully laser cut diamonds being made now in Canada and other places. So as soon as someone plugs an AI into that thing, I think it's going to be running. And the diamond industry is not like the colored stone cutting world. You don't need to have, you know, for the very fine ones, you need a master, but for the average 1 carat stones, they're all cut the same. And I think that a machine will probably be doing that.
Well, in the design of Vivarium, we've had a couple of designers who've used AI. There was a pair of cufflinks by Octave that were designed completely by AI, and Jerry Suen used it. But I think, from my point of view, the trend is towards that fusion of new technology, which is innovation, and we need innovation to keep moving our jewelry world, our jewelry history forward. That's very important. But it's the fusion of new technology and these age-old hand craftsmanship skills like gem cutting. Yeah, and I mean, I don't really understand enough about it, but I think it depends what ideas you input, isn't that right, into AI? So, I mean, you still have to have the concepts and the imagination to do that. But I think it's it'll be an element of innovation, but it's not going to take over.
Actually, I think it's very sad for the designer industry, because I think that even if I have no creativity, if I enter the right prompts in ChatGPT, then I will be able to be like even higher than anybody else. So I think it's going to be something very dangerous, I would say. And I mean, it's not only for the jewelry business, but for many industries. So I think it's going to be scary.
S'il vous plaît, juste là.
Et je voulais poser une question à tous les organisateurs de ce salon. En fait, on voit que ces salons s'améliorent de plus en plus. Donc pour ça, je vous félicite beaucoup. Et en fait, je voulais vous demander, c'est quoi les défis pour le futur? Parce qu'en fait, ces salons vont rester à taille humaine. C'est ça que j'ai lu. Mais d'autre côté, il y a les exposants qui justement augmentent parce que c'est indéniable votre succès. Donc, je voulais demander aux organisateurs comment ils pensent de balancer, en fait, harmoniser d'un côté le fait que les salons restent aussi un laboratoire de métiers perdus, exposition des musées de grande valeur, mais de l'autre côté, il y a aussi le business, que c'est quand même un aspect très important. Et en plus, récemment, on a vu la baisse du marché du diamant. Donc, on a beaucoup de défis dans notre métier. Donc, la question est la suivante. What's next? Comment vous pensez de faire évoluer ces salons? Est-ce qu'il y aura une édition régulière le mois de novembre ou ça restera isolé? Voilà. Donc, c'est ça les questions sur la table.
Merci. Est-ce que je réponds en anglais? Ça peut aller? Ou en français? English, it's okay? Okay, so what is the défi? Sorry, for GemGenève. As you said, we want, and I think we always would remain at a human size. And then, in fact, the challenge is, in your question, is how far can we be, how big can we be, and keeping the same spirit. And this, I think, is going to be by experience. We would see up to which point can we serve all the exhibitors still with heart and carrying those exhibitors and having time and to have the pleasure to organize all the non-commercial activities. So I think that it might be a little bit bigger, but I don't think it would be much bigger. This is concerning the size, and this concerning my opinion, but then maybe we have other opinions, but I think it's the opinion of the board. And then your second question was a second edition or not. So one has to know that we had 2 November editions. The first one was the challenging edition that we had to do in order to give back the hope for everybody. It was the end of the COVID, and we wanted to, it means to be part of this renewal, reborn business. And the past one, the November 22, has been done, pushed by strong buyers, big buyers and exhibitors who needed an end-of-the-year show. Why? This is what we don't know. Is it only because the Hong Kong show or the Hong Kong situation was not yet, they were not going full speed? And what is going to be the will or the hopes for the trade? Is it to do the Hong Kong September show and then no more shows at the end of the year, or they would want a European end-of-the-year show? So we are going to go towards a November show, and if all the exhibitors would tell us, you know what, we think that September would be enough, so maybe we would say, okay, let's stop the November show and in Geneva, and then we'll go to the May show, the normal one.
Et peut-être pour rebondir sur ce que disait Ronnie et sur votre question, je me permettrai de répondre en français, c'est que l'un de nos défis et challenge également pour les éditions suivantes, c'est qu'on est une très petite équipe. Nous avons commencé finalement en 2018 en mode start-up de rien. Aucun de nous n'avait une véritable expérience en termes d'organisation d'événements. Vous pouvez voir au bout de la 6e édition ce que c'est devenu. C'est devenu un événement assez conséquent en termes de valeur, en termes d'exposants, en termes de projets. Et ça, c'est un challenge, je dirais, interne. C'est toute la structuration qu'il y a derrière pour justement ne pas perdre le cœur et l'esprit de GemGenève qui fait que, je crois, tout le monde le ressent ici, cette relation que nous avons avec les exposants et cet esprit que nous avons au sein du salon entre les équipes techniques, les visiteurs, les exposants. Et ça, c'est notre plus gros challenge, se structurer sans perdre cet esprit. Deuxième challenge, c'est que ça, c'est plutôt propre à nous tous, c'est apprendre à savoir dire non. Parce qu'effectivement, pour rester à taille humaine, enfin à échelle humaine, il faudra qu'on apprenne à savoir dire non pour justement ne pas grossir et ne pas trop se développer, mais trop vite se développer en risquant la structure. Et troisième point qui rejoint le « what's next » que vous avez posé, Laura, c'est avec le développement des projets, nous aimerions effectivement développer de plus en plus certains secteurs, notamment par exemple le designer, l'aspect designer contemporain. Et donc effectivement, ça va se mettre en place petit à petit. C'est ce qu'on souhaite petit à petit, parce que c'est un beau penchant aux exposants, et nous aurons du coup besoin de place, de plus de monde pour organiser tout ça. Donc c'est un peu les défis et what's next de GemGenève.
Jean-Luc Nabé, Flash Léman. Je voulais savoir comment ça se fait-il, d'année en année, vous ajoutez dans le volet culturel, comme cette année le MH. Donc, quelle est la volonté d'apporter, et je suis complètement d'accord, la culture dans ce salon bien spécifique?
Je dirais pour deux points. Le côté culture, finalement, est venu du premier projet que GemGenève a mis en place avec la aide en 2018. Donc ça, c'était sous l'initiative de Thomas et de Ida Ferber, l'une des deux familles cofondatrices de GemGenève. Et en fait, c'est un projet qui nous parlait à tous au cœur, c'est-à-dire que lorsque nous sommes allés au jury de la aide, eh ben, on était un peu comme des enfants en découvrant les projets des étudiants. Et finalement, c'est parti de ce côté-là. Ça s'est développé petit à petit avec d'autres projets, avec les écoles techniques, avec d'autres projets étudiants, juste vraiment parce qu'on était un peu comme des enfants face à leur créativité, face à ce qu'ils pouvaient nous proposer. C'est vraiment parti de ce côté-là. Ensuite, finalement, on s'est dit que c'était pas si vous me permettez, débile que cela, puisque mettre en relation des étudiants avec des professionnels et des exposants internationaux pouvait créer des liens et pouvait leur offrir des superbes opportunités, tant pour les écoles en termes de visibilité que pour les étudiants en termes de potentiel stage, potentiel partenariat. C'est la même logique qu'il y a avec le designer Vivarium, créer du lien. Et finalement, ça s'est développé comme ça. Et le côté exposition et le côté relation avec les institutions culturelles s'est fait également avec le développement de GemGenève. On est devenu peut-être plus crédible aussi vis-à-vis des institutions. C'est aussi une manière différente de mettre en avant le monde de la joaillerie, parce que les exposants ont beaucoup de pièces qu'ils cachent dans leur coffre, mais qui sont de valeur muséale. Donc on essaye de les stimuler un petit peu en leur proposant une autre manière de mettre en avant leurs pièces via les musées. C'est pour ça que... C'est pour ça qu'avec l'exposition Fabergé, on avait demandé à certains exposants de prêter des pièces Fabergé, donc de les intégrer à l'exposition. Pareil pour le MAH. Voilà, c'est vraiment l'idée de créer du lien et de profiter de GemGenève comme lieu de rencontre de tous les acteurs de ce milieu-là. Les marchands, les musées, les métiers d'art maintenant, et mettre en avant quelques métiers d'art, en fait, comme la micromosaïque, les mailles, voilà, tous les métiers qu'il y a derrière. Voilà.
Moi, j'aimerais juste ajouter un petit mot à ce que Mathieu vient de dire. Mathieu a expliqué les faits. Moi, je vais aller plutôt en psychanalyse. Et au fond, c'est pour se faire plaisir soi-même. Toute la partie commerciale, c'est très technique. Il faut que ce soit plus ou moins parfait. Il faut que ce soit réglé. On a des personnes qui ont certaines attentes plus ou moins hautes. Et on a également remarqué que plus on leur en donnait et plus leurs attentes augmentaient. Tandis que toute cette partie-là, c'est celle où nous, on se fait plaisir. Donc, c'est un peu pour s'assurer que des gens seront contents. Donc on sait que là, ils seront contents. Là-bas, on risque d'avoir de temps en temps quelqu'un qui va réclamer que la couleur n'est pas la couleur qu'ils avaient décidé. Ça, c'est un petit... voilà. Donc psychologiquement, c'est pour se faire plaisir. Et voilà.
Je crois que nous devons terminer la conférence de presse, comme elle a eu peut-être une dernière question, et puis on devra terminer pour ensuite aller déjeuner et on pourra échanger ensemble.
Thank you. Last question. Do you fancy maybe the idea of launching a new fair or other initiatives, maybe in partnership with other institutions or other fair organizers abroad or in Europe? Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to try to follow what the exhibitors would want. If there is something which is feasible somewhere else and we would feel comfortable to keep this spirit, we might think about it. I don't know if we would do it, but we might think about it. And for us, if we do so, it should be only if we can keep this spirit of GemGenève. And the spirit of GemGenève is not only who you see here, but it's also the security people, there are the constructors that makes really also the spirit. And I think if we can be assured of this, maybe we can think, if there is a need somewhere to do it. Collaboration with other shows, to do one show could be quite difficult, not for us, but for them, because our idea being not to capitalize profits, but to give part and to give a big service. I'm not sure that a lot of organizers are ready to drop their profit in order to do it our way. And this would be the only condition to have a collaboration would be that they have to follow this kind of idea.